This is a 2022 Lexus ES300h F-Sport, an all-new trim that's part of a mid-cycle update of the 7th generation model, which was introduced in the 2019 model year. What's all new is combining the F-Sport trim with the hybrid engine, which gives you a sportier tuned suspension and 19-inch wheels combined with a 44 miles per gallon producing hybrid engine. My name is Robin Warner, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I combine talking about cars with being left-handed, my driving hand. Powering the ES300h F-Sport is a 2.5-liter inline 4-cylinder engine and electric motor that team up to produce a peak 215 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. That power then goes through a continuously variable transmission and onto the front wheels. The base price for the 2022 Lexus ES300h F-Sport is $46,525, and my test car costs $51,100. For those that are interested, I included detailed specifications, including dimensions, fuel economy, and options in the description. All right, let's take a look around the car. Here it is, everybody, the 2022 Lexus ES300h F-Sport. Now, this particular F-Sport is painted in Matador red mica paint, and because it is an F-Sport, even though it's also a hybrid, you've got plenty of F-Sport cues right here, not least of which are these black 19-inch wheels right here on both the front and the back, and they do run 235 series tires, 235 40R19 size tires, and that's both on the front and back. Non-F-Sport Lexus ES cars choose between 17 or 18-inch wheels. Looking at the front of the car, we've got a unique F-Sport grille. Now, the other trims of the ES had an updated grille for 2022, but this gets the F-Sport grille, so it's been updated in that sense. Also, this car does have the optional triple beam LED headlights, and by my count, I see 1, 2, 3 beams. There's my guess. Then we also got a strip of lights under here, and in case you forget, that's right, it is a Lexus. By the way, these triple beam LED headlights are a $1,215 option. Looking at the car in profile, we do have a fairly standard front engine, front wheel drive mid-size sedan shape. However, it is fairly swoopy and modern looking, and taking a closer look, I do like the chrome trim around the windows, the newer style antenna. It's nice to be reminded that it is in fact a hybrid down here, and you also get a nice look at this fun little trunk spoiler for all that extra downforce you need because it's an F-Sport. Looking in back, it is pretty busy back here, but nothing distasteful, just a lot going on, a lot of shapes, a lot of angles. You know, these tail lights start at this point and come out, kind of look space age, or maybe the two together kind of look like squinting eyes. And you've got this nice chrome strip that continues across the entire side. Down here, this is a perfectly tasteful ES300h to look at, and we've got one single exhaust tailpipe right there hanging out underneath. Nothing fake, nothing faux, nothing bad about that. Let's take a look inside the car. Okay, starting in back like I like to do, I'm going to start with the key fob, trunk, and we've got a nice power opening trunk right there. And through the magic of editing, we have instant light to show you inside to see that we've got a decent amount of trunk space there and nice hooks to grab onto right there and there to strap things down. Underneath here is tools for changing a tire, those types of things. You got a spare under that. These seats are not folding, but you do have a center pass-through right there if you have skis or something else that require a little bit more space than this trunk provides. All right, moving to the back seat. This is a over 195-inch long sedan, so we have plenty of space back here. You can see I've got pretty decent seat bottom height and good width as well. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I have plenty of knee room, a solid 6 inches. I have decent thigh support from the seat back, and I'm got about 1/4 inch of headroom maybe. Rear passengers do get some charging options down here. 2 USB plugs and a standard cigarette lighter style plug-in right there. And if you don't need to carry 3 people in back, you do of course get a center armrest, and that does of course include cup holders. Hey. All right, moving on to the front. Okay, pretty standard stuff on the door. Of course, you have power windows, power locks, side view mirror adjustment, those things right there. You do have a nice metal kick plate, says Lexus, and up front you do get 10-way power adjusting seats, so 4 aft, seat back, lumbar, and all of that. Because this is an F-Sport, you do get aluminum pedals down here, including the dead pedal. You do get an F-Sport steering wheel. You get F-Sport embossed into the seats. You get paddle shifters for your non-shifting continuously variable transmission, but whatever. And you also get an F-Sport shift knob. The engine did not start, but the car is in fact ready to go. This is a hybrid. There it is. You are looking at an 8-inch multi-information display. That is a real piece of metal around there, but that screen around it, and so that gives you different options in terms of what kind of display you have in the center, whether you want a digital gauge or some other information right there. One clever thing that Lexus started doing that I appreciate are these knobs up here and here. So this one, it has this knob, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's just a button right here, and that turns on and off traction control, and if you hold it down, that turns off stability control as well. But here you twist this up to go into sport mode, twist it down to go into eco, or press the button over here to be in normal mode. Looking up, you do have a 10-inch head-up display. Looking at the steering wheel, here's another view of your paddle shifters, upshift, downshift, but again, it's a CVT, you're not actually shifting, and you've got lots of controls for cruise control, different volume, and other options right here. Over here we have the push button start, and just beneath that is the electric parking brake. It's normally on the left side of the steering wheel for most cars, but on the Lexus ES, it's on the right side. Moving over here, this is our 12.3-inch center console touchscreen. This is an optional touchscreen that is part of the $1,820 navigation package. It is an 8-inch screen otherwise, but this screen is very wide, very clear, nice high definition. You've got this nice little Lexus clock built into it. How lovely. Regardless of the screen size, all Lexus ES models do support Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Bluetooth connectivity. And you may have noticed that I said touchscreen several times. New for 2022, the multimedia system is no longer just controlled by this remote system right here. You can also touch the screen directly. Looking down here, you do get dual zone climate control, and beneath that you do have heated and ventilated seats. That is standard on F-Sport models, though the heated steering wheel is a $180 option above and beyond that. After that, you got a rear sunshade, also optional. And looking beneath that, you have another cup holder down here, more plug-in options right here. That's USB-A, and then auxiliary inputs for audio. And back here you have another cup holder, but this is fun. This is a pretty darn deep cup holder. You know, there's your venti cup holder right there. But if you push this right here, little tray comes down, and now you have your tall cup holder right there. And opening this reveals your smartphone wireless charging right here, and some additional storage. Looking up, we do have a moonroof. It does have a manual privacy panel right there, but then it does move up and down, open and close automatically right there, and then your lighting around here. Well, the fact that we're in a Lexus ES that has a sport mode and is called F-Sport makes me pretty darn excited to go for a drive. Let's go for a drive. Hi everybody. Well, here it is, the all-new 2022 Lexus ES300h F-Sport. Adding F-Sport to 300h is the all-new part, and it is legitimately interesting because this is not only the less sporty Lexus, the more sporty being the IS, but it's also the hybrid-engined less sporty Lexus, which tends to be the less sporty version of Lexus in general. So you have the less sporty version of the less sporty car, but with the sportier trim, F-Sport. So how does that combination add up? Kind of interesting, right? I'll just tell you right away, better than you'd expect. I mean, first of all, it looks the part, right? I mean, it looks sporty enough. It definitely has the basic front-wheel drive sedan shape. You know, you can see the resemblance to the Toyota Camry. Now, that in itself is not a bad thing, but it's not a very sports sedan type of thing to do. Then you have the powertrain. It is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes a grand total of 215 horsepower thanks to the help of a 39 horsepower electric motor. And there's another tie-in to the Toyota Camry. It actually shares the same 2.5-liter gasoline engine as the Toyota Camry Hybrid. However, it is not the same powertrain. The Toyota Camry Hybrid has a different, more powerful electric motor, and this Lexus ES300h actually makes more peak horsepower overall. 215 horsepower here versus 208 in the Camry. Now, the Camry does get better fuel economy, but again, this is also an F-Sport, so it's sporty, right? It being the same internal combustion engine as the Toyota Camry Hybrid means we've got the same 14-to-1 compression ratio, but also Atkinson cycle running, which means that it's actually not a 14-to-1 compression ratio, it's a 14-to-1 expansion ratio, but then the intake valves stay open. For the first part of compression, you get lower compression that way. That is a more efficient, less powerful way for an engine to run. So it's pretty popular in the hybrid world, and you see it in a lot of places. But it's interesting to me that you have, like, mechanically 14-to-1 compression ratio, which is like Ferrari territory, but in actuality, you don't see it. Also a little bit more popular in the hybrid world and a little bit less popular in the driver enthusiast world is a CVT transmission. But I have to say, as CVTs go, the way that Toyota has tuned this one makes it pretty decent for what it is, right? So it has a sport version on the transmission, and in that sport version, it will give you faux gears, kind of pretend like you're going through gears, and it does a good job to keep revs pretty high. And even more important, there's very little latency, very little lag in when you hit the throttle and when you actually get acceleration, which is just more than anything a huge sigh of relief to have that in an F-Sport model, to have a CVT that behaved pretty well. Another demerit is that this is a front-wheel drive car, not rear or even all-wheel drive, but you know, there's also efficiencies in that, and it just is what it is. And that also means that we've got 58% of the weight on the front axle, less than ideal for steering feel and turn-in response. The fact that we have a lithium-ion battery pack helps distribute the weight a little bit, but not that much. Considering all those things, you should see how this car accelerates, so let me show you that right now. Okay, I've got it in sport driving mode, and I've just shifted it to the sport setting of the transmission. Coming to a complete stop, bit of brake torque. Let go of the brake. Okay, there it is. You know, actually pretty good. Yeah, that's really not that bad. 0 to 60 in a claimed 8.1 seconds. Nothing breathtaking here, but you know, certainly not bad. And as you can hear, I'm still in the sport suspension setting. It's maintaining high revs for me, 3,800 RPM, there or thereabouts. Really not bad. I am pleasantly surprised with how well this 300SH accelerated, given everything and given the fairly low peak output that we have. You know, not terribly high torque and definitely not terribly high horsepower for any kind of sports sedan, let alone what Lexus wants F-Sport to mean these days. See, actually really not bad. I mean, considering everything, considering the weight of this car, considering the hybridness of this car, considering the CVT-ness of this car, considering the front-wheel driveness of this car, all those things were making my expectations pretty low. It actually gets moving pretty well. It makes a big difference if you put it in sport mode, and definitely if you put the transmission in its sporty or shifting setting. Those two things combined really help liven up this car for straight line acceleration. And yes, you do have drive modes in this car. You have drive modes in most any car these days. Kind of mercifully, we only have three. We have normal, sport, and eco. And I like the little dial that Lexus gives you to change between them. That makes it very easy. But there's another reason to put this thing in sport mode, and that's to see what the handling is like. So I went ahead and gave that a shot. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick handling test. Got the car in sport mode. I've got the transmission in sport mode. I've got the traction control limited. Let's see how it goes. Well, we're still getting a lot of stability control intervention even without traction control on. That's not a huge surprise. Getting a fair amount of understeer, not much steering feel, but not all that much body roll either. There's way more body control than I would have expected. And you can hear the engine still keeping its revs up, so you can get snappy exits out of the corners. It's better than I expected. Now, to be honest, I didn't expect all that much, being the ES and the ES having the history it does, but you know, this is better. This is better than I expected. All right, a few more corners, going the opposite direction. I turned stability control off now as well. We'll see if that makes any difference. Okay, we've got next to no feel from the steering, and it's pretty light as well. So that is definitely beneath sports sedan levels, certainly, and certainly not anything like the Lexus ES F-Sport that I drove not that long ago. But again, considering where we're at, considering that this is a Toyota Camry-based car, you gotta give it pretty respectable marks. This is a big improvement over Lexus ESs of old, and this is the hybrid Lexus ES, adding the F-Sport tune to the suspension and stiffening up the things that they did. Yeah, it's not tons of fun, it's not terribly engaging, but it's pretty darn competent. And yes, when I turned off the stability control all the way, it did let me play a little bit more, feel the limit a little bit more. So really, the bar was set kind of on the low side for this car, but this exceeded that. So as you can see, there's some fundamental issues with this car. The ES still is not inherently a driver's enthusiast sedan. But again, considering what I was expecting, it was a pleasant surprise. But back to where expectations are a little bit higher for this Lexus. Safety. You do get the Lexus Safety System Plus 2.5, which includes a whole bunch of stuff. I'll put them on the screen right there. One new thing for 2022, that standard is blind spot monitoring, and that comes in addition to a whole array of things. Another place where expectations of this Lexus ES are higher, at least they were for me, is ride comfort and highway cruising, and I put something together there as well. Let me show you that. Time for a little freeway test, and I don't want to waste any time getting on the freeway, so here we go. Oof. Yeah, I do wish we had a bit more steering feel. But hey, now that we're on the interstate, we can enjoy what is a pretty darn comfortable and quiet cruise. So, of course, this has adaptive cruise control, but this also has something called lane tracing assist, and what that does is help you stay centered in the lane. So not only is it keeping you in the lane, but it's working to keep you centered in the lane. So far, you know, I'm not feeling any tugging on the wheel, so I guess I'm doing a pretty good job of keeping the car centered on my own. But theoretically, if the car feels that you're out of center, it's going to gently tug to pull you back to center. So I'll deliberately get it off the center. Yep. And it's moving me back to center. And I'd say that's pretty close to center. So that's a nice little trick to help you not only stay in your lane, but stay centered in your lane. That's definitely something to strive for. You hear just a littlest bit of road noise, but it's awfully faint. A little bit of wind noise, but that's in the distance as well. So it's very easy to just hear and talk at normal conversational level and be plenty comfortable. Plus all the little heaves and bumps in the interstate, this Lexus glides over those just fine. Pretty much what we'd expected, right? Totally pleasant ride, quiet on the interstate, good road noise isolation, good wind noise isolation, plenty of creature comforts. You know, I'm sitting it is in the 20s in Michigan right now, and I've got heated seat, heated steering wheel. In the summer, I've got a ventilated seat as well. So I have all the things that make just soaking up miles more pleasant in this car. So putting this all together, where does this Lexus ES300h F-Sport stack up? Well, another front-wheel drive based luxury car is the Acura TLX, and from a driver enthusiast point of view, no, this is not a match to the TLX. Especially when you consider that there's a TLX Type S, this is nowhere close. They are roughly the same size, they both start life as front-wheel drive sedans. The similarities kind of stop there. However, to be fair to Lexus, this is not the sportiest version of the Lexus ES. There is the Lexus ES300h F-Sport, and in that car you can get the dynamic handling package, which does a lot to firm up the suspension. You've got variable dampers and a lot of other tricks to make it a lot more lively. I know for a fact it made a big difference on the Lexus IS. Also, there is no hybrid version of the Acura TLX. If you want to be more miserly with fuel economy, you want to spend less money at the gas pump, you can achieve well over 40 miles to the gallon in this car and still retain a little bit of that sports sedan look and even a bit of that sports sedan feel. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those things really do help me out a lot. Okay, goodbye. It's not bad. And through the magic of editing, we have instant light to show you inside.